Are Gen Z's money habits unknowingly shaping your financial future? No matter what generation you're in, you need to stick around because this will affect you for sure. Now, before we jump into that, I want to introduce myself. I'm Lisa. I've been a financial advisor for over 15 years, and I help people get to financial freedom as quickly as possible. Along the way, we try to make sure that we kind of sidestep some common mistakes out there, build clarity and flexibility in your plans so that these economic disruptions that happen, whether it's Gen Z or something else, does not take you off course on what your big goal is, which is financial freedom. Okay, so let's jump into the money habits that Gen Z has right now and how they might be affecting you. So we're going to go through 5 of them. The first one, and really the first 3 are okay, like we all went through these. So I'm going to go through them pretty fast, but I'm going to focus on the last 2 mainly. So the first thing is that they're prioritizing spending on experiences rather than savings. None of us saved when we were younger. We tell the next generation, you should be saving. Don't do like I do. They don't listen most of the time. It's okay. It's part of life, right? So that's a nothing burger. Everybody knows that that's happening. Another thing is they're leaning into technology. Okay, duh, right? They've had phones since they were 10 years old, leaning into technology, having more efficiency when it comes to their money and their habits and all that. That, of course, right? That makes sense. And the last one I would say is they are not really investing in the markets for long-term planning. Very few of us did. I had a dad that basically convinced me strongly to invest in a Roth when I was younger. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. But most people don't invest when they're younger. And so that's pretty common. The 2 things I think that they are doing that are going to significantly impact possibly the economy and your money. And when I say impact the economy, that doesn't always mean it's going to be a negative, horrible thing for the economy. It just means that there might be disruption and it can result in a great thing in the long run. But disruption is always something that we have to be aware of when we're looking at our money, right? Because, we can only control what we can control. And we'll go through what you can control and what you can't control with these 2 last things. So one is they're very focused on side hustles and entrepreneurship. Now, when we're young, a lot of us are like, screw the man, we don't want to work for them, right? But most of us, once we come out of school, whether it's high school or college, we kind of moved into more of those traditional roles to start off with. We got an internship here, we got, starting off job here. And while we weren't super happy about it, we did it. This generation, much more of them are holding out. They are leaning into being an influencer. They are building small businesses, whether they're successful or not. They do not want to work in those traditional roles. That could be a great thing because AI might be kind of disrupting the workplace. And so not having them be part of that could help with the disruption that AI might have overall, right? People are aging out, they're retiring, and some of those jobs are being taken over by AI. So they're not wanting the jobs, then okay, that works, right? But there's another thing with the side hustle and entrepreneurship, which means that they are not getting payroll, they are not on traditional payroll, and they are not paying into Social Security, which we all know Social Security is on kind of its last leg. It's not doing great. And so while I don't know if this is hugely impacting it overall, it's not helping. So essentially, Social Security could get disrupted a bit from them not contributing to that tax. And so we'll go into what you can do about that in a second. The other thing is that they are really distrustful of kind of that traditional institution. So they are much more distrustful of investing and banks and mortgages and that kind of stuff than really any other generation before. And we've all been kind of rebels and said, oh, we've all had that kind of, I grew up in the 90s, alternative music was all against tradition, right? But they really are leaning into this. I don't know if they'll ever really come out of it. And so it can definitely have some disruption when it comes to banking and other things. And again, disruption could be a great thing in the long run, but it can hurt while things are moving and changing. So it's something to consider. So, a couple things you can do from these things that are happening with Gen Z. One is the Social Security piece, I'm sure, is the thing that's kind of alerted you the most from what I've said in the last couple of minutes. You should, I'm not everybody has to, but you should look at your plan without Social Security in it. I would have said this whether Gen Z was contributing or not. Run your plan taking Social Security completely out of it. How are you doing? How much of a gap is there? How can we build towards a financial freedom number that does not include Social Security? That is something you should be doing either way, whether Gen Z decides to start taking payroll or not. It's just something that you should do, because while we can vote and we have that right in the United States to vote people in and out and try to affect this stuff, we can't control that piece, but we can control how much we save. So I would say focus on that, and always stress test your plans with those kind of worst case scenarios in mind, quote unquote, right? Another thing that you would want to take a look at is keep an eye open for new trends that are happening. And what I mean by that is sometimes we go in our little bubble, and I'm a traditionalist when it comes to money and finances and stuff. I really do believe, some of those golden rules are being overlooked for other things, and people need to go back to those golden rules. But that doesn't mean I keep a closed viewpoint on new things that are out there, new types of banking, new types of things that can help me diversify income streams, diversify my portfolio a bit, help me in the long run with risk and with, hopefully a little bit higher interest rate or rate of return or whatever we're looking at to get. So keep an eye open for some new trends that are happening. I'm still surprised at how many people don't know what high yield savings accounts are. I have a video on that, so go back and watch that if you don't know what they are. But those can really help have your cash keep up with, inflation as much as it can. Things like that. You don't want to stay closed off. You want to be aware of all your different options that are out there. And I do think with Gen Z, more and more opportunities might be popping open as these banking institutions try to draw them in. And so I don't know what those will be, but I think you want to keep an eye out for them. I would say also the last thing, and this is, those two are kind of taking care of yourself, which I'm always about on this channel, is how do you protect yourself so that you can get to your financial freedom, right? The thing that you might want to give back is having more open conversations with the younger generation about money in general, your feelings on it, how it works, all of that stuff. I do feel like even though we have so much technology, you've got to remember traditional finance is not taught in the schools. It hasn't been taught for a long time. I'm a young Gen Xer, and it wasn't taught when I was going to school. So that gap is really there. And of course, they're going to be fearful and distrustful of something they don't understand. So the more open conversation we can have with the younger generation, whether that's your kids, your nieces and nephews, your best friend's child, your neighbor down the street, whatever it is, the more open conversation we can have, the easier it will be for them to really understand and learn and be open to other things that there may be closed off from now. And openness is always going to be better for them in the long run and better for our society and our economy. So with that, let me know what your thoughts are. What did I miss? What did I scare you too much about? What would you add? I'd love to hear from you. So please reach out and let me know. Until next time, stay strong out there, be kind to one another, be safe, and we will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.